Let's talk about campfires. What's up, backpackers? I'm Dan and welcome to Backpacking Adventures, where we talk about backpacking, hiking, and gear. And if you're new to this channel and those interest you, consider subscribing and make sure you hit that bell notification so you don't miss a thing. We're going to talk about what I do to start and maintain a campfire. Now, this is only how I do it and not the end-all be-all in campfire making. There are several methods to build a campfire. There's the TP method, there's the log cabin method, and then there's the pyramid method. For the TP method, you start with a small base. And I always use a base for any of these because it keeps the wood off the wet ground and makes it easier for the fire to start and continue to burn. From the base, you add your tinder, and then you put your kindling on top and you shape them in the shape of a teepee. The log cabin method is where you build a base and then you stack the logs like you would build a log cabin. You want them spread apart enough that they will allow for adequate airflow. Then you place the tinder and the kindling in the center of it, and then you light and continue to add wood. The pyramid method is where you build a base with the logs tightly together. Then the next layer you build is a little bit smaller, and the next layer is smaller yet until you have the shape of a pyramid. Then on the top of it you place your tinder and you light the fire, and it will burn its way down. The log cabin and pyramid methods require very little maintenance and they will burn for a long time as is. The TP method does require regular maintenance to keep it burning. Whichever method you choose, the first thing you need to consider is safety. You want to make sure you have plenty of water on hand in case of emergency, in case you have to put out a fire. You also want to make sure you clear the area around it of any kind of leaves or twigs or small sticks that could potentially ignite. Almost every fire I've had, there's always been embers that jump out of the fire. This will help prevent the spread of the fire. Now that the area is safe and ready to use, it's time to go gather the wood. There are 3 types of wood you need to gather. You want your tinder, your kindling, and your fuel wood. Tinder is usually very small pieces of wood or leaves or twigs or pine needles that will quickly ignite. Or you can use the homemade types like the cotton balls with petroleum jelly or dryer lint. Or you can just go to a sporting goods store and purchase the little blocks of fire starter. That's what I use because, again, I like things easy and simple. Kindling is bigger than your tinder, but they're still relatively small, no more than 1/2 inch to 1 inch in diameter. These will burn for a longer period of time and be the base for your coals. Your fuel wood is the larger pieces of wood or logs that you use once the fire is going to continue to make the fire go on for hour after hour. You want to try to gather the majority or ideally all of the wood you're going to need to set up and maintain your fire throughout the night. The reason is, in the beginning, you have to tend to the fire to keep it going and keep it lit. You have to constantly feed it with more wood and more wood until the fire is at a point where it will burn by itself just by throwing a log or 2 on. So if you start a fire and don't have enough wood to keep it going and have to go out and gather the wood and then process the wood, your fire is going to go out. It's going to make it very difficult to keep and maintain a fire. It's easier just to gather it all, start it, and just sit there and enjoy your fire. Now that you have your wood, you want to build a small base. The base is built with small pieces of wood just to make a small platform that you can put your tinder. Since I use a little fire starter square, that's what I place on there. Then after the kindling, you add your tinder and you want to build it into a teepee. And as you build it, you want to put the smaller to the larger pieces to the top. Remember, you want to keep an opening in your teepee so that you can reach in and light it after you build it. And as the fire burns, you just keep adding larger and larger and larger pieces of wood. And if you're in an area where the wood is wet and you're able to start a fire, you can place the wood in close proximity and it will dry it out as the fire burns. And then once the coals are hot enough, you can just keep throwing log after log on it and it will burn for a long time. Now, if you're finished with the fire, whether it's that night or the next day, you need to make sure it's completely extinguished. What you want to do is you want to stir the coals, you want to pour water on it, stir the coals, pour more water on it, and you continue that until the fire is out and you can reach your hand over to feel the heat. And if you are stealth camping and you built your own fire ring, make sure you just assemble the fire ring and spread the ashes out as if you were never there. Which method do I use? Well, I use the TP method. For most of the year, I am not big on making campfires. Summertime and warm weather, I do not make a fire. I hike all day, I get to camp, I set up, eat, and go right to bed. But in the wintertime, it's a different story. We get to the camp, it gets dark early, and I like to have a nice fire. And I cook my food on the fire. But why do I use the TP method? It's because it requires a lot of maintenance and you need to tend to it. If for whatever reason you leave it unattended, it'll go out in a short period of time. The other methods will just keep burning and burning and at risk of starting a fire if you're not there to tend to it. Tell me what ways you'd use to build a fire in the comments below. If you like this video, consider subscribing and give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, see you next time, and go explore.